All right. So you've heard me speak today, and probably if you've heard me speak before, I use the word collaboration a little bit, probably a little too much, but it's the world we live in right now. And when I talk about collaboration, I talk a lot about what I mean by that is industry. There's several components to collaboration. One is our industry divisions, our pavement markings, our signs, our signals, our traffic control, our guardrail, and then all to include also all the roadway stakeholders, and that's agencies and these academia and industry. You have your contractors, your suppliers, your manufacturers. So all that, we have to, in this group, in this association, we have to continue our collaboration to move forward. But with the future as it is, and with the advent of CAVs, we have to expand that collaboration to some places that we haven't before, which is kind of a shame, I think, because I think that for a long time we've been working with the other industries we've been working alongside or parallel with those industries, but we haven't connected with those other industries. Never before have the need for safer roads, safer drivers, and safer cars. Never has it been so intertwined and interdependent upon one another. So through the advancement of the CAV movement, and that's connected and automated vehicles, we're seeing more and more a future of constant communication between motorist, vehicles, and roadway. And this constant communication can't work. There's no communication there if there's no communication here. And so that's why I'm excited to invite and to have today two, not one, but two major automakers are going to be here today, coming up here on stage and speaking to us on their perspective and expertise of the future of roads and vehicles. The first is going to be Tony Reinhart of Ford Motor Company, and then we have Brad Stertz coming up from Audi America. Now, understand that these guys, the depth and breadth of their expertise and their experience in this movement, in this process, in this industry, is far beyond any bio or any title could give them. So I'm going to invite first Tony, if you'll come up. Tony is the Regional Director of Community and Government Affairs for the Ford Motor Company. Tony, thank you for being here, and the stage is yours. Thank you.
Good morning. Welcome to Kansas City. I'm local, so who's from Kansas City? Go Chiefs, right? No, it's a good place to be from, and if you need any additional recommendations on barbecue or other restaurants or something while you're here, give me a holler. I'll give you some of the ones that are off the beaten path, right? Give you a chance. So let's see if I can. There we go. Glad to be here, and it is important, and more important now than, as Greg was saying, more important than it's ever been to us to be having conversations between groups like yours and our companies and our associations. The auto industry is going through as much change today as we have seen in more than 100 years. Back, since we went from the horse and buggy to the Model T, right? Now, Brad may disagree with that, it would be an Audi product, but we always like to say went from the horse and buggy directly to the Model T, right? And it's changed, right? I'll give you a perfect example. Here in Kansas City, we build, we've been here since 1906, been building vehicles since 1909. And in 1909, we built 70 Model Ts a day. We have a plant up north that builds, we have two plants under one roof. We build F-150 pickup trucks and we build transit vans. We build 65 F-150 pickup trucks an hour, 20 hours a day. Not as much these days with semiconductors and some of those things, but when we're up and running full speed, right? But so if you see here, kind of a little chart for us, a pyramid, safety, we can take a holistic approach to safety, always have. Safety has always been, job one for us. It's the center of our product development in everything we do and all our processes. The safety pyramid that we have here on the right is kind of broken out. You see the corporate side at the bottom, and then the brand strategy at the top, the corporate policy at the bottom. It kind of shows our holistic approach, right? We want to ensure that we meet or exceed safety regulations at all levels, because that's our goal. As part of our corporate policy, we commit to meeting voluntary agreements in our internal Ford safety design guidelines to keep our customers safe. That's critical for us in terms of making sure the customer is safe when they get behind the wheel and doing everything we can. Our brand strategy at the top of the pyramid guides the design of our products to meet applicable PDG requirements to develop features that meet or exceed our customer expectations. And that is pretty large these days, right? There's a lot of expectations by the customers in terms of what they see, and sometimes the problem becomes that we kind of, lead them to believe there's technologies that are, coming, that are there, say make sure they understand the technologies because there's a lot of change taking place. So I want to talk just briefly about a few features. I think Brad and I got it broken out pretty well. He's going to hit some of the things that I'm not going to hit as heavy, but kind of give you an idea so when we get to Q&A, you got an idea of all the things that are going on. This is kind of a busy slide, but the point here is that as we develop features to surprise and delight our customers, we have begun to standardize key crash avoidance features under the Copilot 360 umbrella, which now includes 8 features. It's a reverse sensing system, our BLIS, our reverse brake system, our LKS, our rear view camera, our pre-collision assist, our auto high beam, and our post-collision braking. And you got to understand that, as we do the spectrum and we start to look at what we're going to do, and I'll talk a little bit about autonomous vehicles in a minute, that all those things are kind of the beginnings of where we're headed in terms of an autonomous vehicle and all the things that come with that, hopefully at the end of all these conversations. The Ford Copilot 360 Assist provides additional optional driver assistant content to improve the driving experience for our customers, which includes intelligent adaptive cruise control and intersection assist that we have now on the Mustang Mach-E. So anybody who's got a new vehicle, almost all of us have some kind of a driving assist now, where you see it right when you start to pull over into the passing lane and it kind of fights you a little bit, right? You got those kind of things, which is really designed, if you hit your blinker, right, it doesn't fight you at all. And that's designed in case you're nodding off or something like that. Or as when we have the, when you come up behind somebody, now you can set your, the distance that you're going to follow them, and the vehicle automatically brakes itself so that you come up on somebody, or you have the collision avoidance that tells you that you're coming too fast. All those kind of things are, precursors to what we're going to end up being, I think, as we move more and more towards autonomous vehicles. The Active Drive Assist is Ford's new ADS feature that allows for hands-free driving on more than 100,000 miles of divided highways in all 50 states and Canada. And it has advanced infrared driver-facing camera, ensures the driver remains attentive while his hands are off the wheel. Active Drive Assist begins rolling out on select 2021 model year Ford vehicles. So that's coming fairly quickly now. You see here we're talking about Ford supports periodic updates to NCAP to help drive enhancements in advanced vehicle safety technologies, provide credit to automakers that are prioritizing safety content. We advocate for adding crash avoidance technologies to NCAP and prioritizing technologies that have demonstrated real-world safety benefits. NHTSA is considering aligning NCAP test procedures criteria with other international protocols or regional NCAP requirements. Harmonization is a big thing for us, so we can enable product development efficiencies that could speed up advancements in safety in the U.S. and globally. The NCAP changes would be coordinated parallel with rulemaking for Part 575 customer information to avoid consumer confusion about the information on the safety rating label versus our safetycar.gov versus www.safetycar.gov and provide manufacturers with adequate lead time to incorporate content format changes to the label. Ford looks forward to partnering with NHTSA on the next generation cap. So, and the thoughts on that are kind of a couple things, right? A key aspect is provide consumers with simple information about the advanced in-vehicle safety technologies, because there's going to be a lot of understanding and acknowledgement and acceptance that we're going to need. And then periodic updates should be on a multi-year cadence aligned with the introduction of new or enhanced safety technology into high-volume production vehicles. So beyond that, and here's just one example as we're looking at things. There's 10,000 lives annually lost by impaired driving. And we have a driver alcohol detection system for safety program, cooperative research partnership that's going on, trying to develop an alcohol detection technology that passively detects driver impairment and prevents the car from moving. At the same time, false positives need to be minimized by setting performance standards for speed, accuracy, precision, and reliability of the blood alcohol content measurement. Ford has participated in the ATSSA program since it was established. Our contribution includes active lead in the technical working group on the alcohol sensing technology development, support for Ford Flex pilot in Virginia, James River Fleet, installed DADSS technology in Ford Fusion for evaluation, and since the technology is not ready for commercialization, we support funding for continuing research on the DADSS. So that kind of gives us just a general idea, but when I talked earlier about how things are changing dramatically, there's a lot of discussion going on about connectivity, and there's a lot of conversation going on and out about autonomous vehicles. And I think all this kind of gives you an idea of the precursor, the stage that's being set. When it comes to autonomous vehicles, and as an example, we are now testing in 3 communities. Well, we have some testing in Michigan, we have some testing in California, but we have sites in Austin, Miami, and DC, where we are now out mapping. We're doing that in conjunction with Argo, and there's also some connection with Volkswagen and Audi. And so we're out there now mapping those communities. And I think you have to understand, though, and there's been a lot of conversation in the last few days in particular about maybe one of our competitors and what's going on in this space. Hopefully everybody understands the difference between levels 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And there's a difference in those levels in terms of whether or not levels 1 and 2 are some of the things that I've been talking about here, the technology that's going in the vehicles, versus a level 3, which is pilot engagement and disengagement, versus level 4, which is commercial applications and things, which is what we're looking at, versus level 5, which is full autonomy. And I think there's some confusion that gets into the marketplace about those things. What we're looking to do is level 4 right now, where we go into a community, we map the community, the technology adapts to it, and then what you can do eventually is we're looking to do rideshare applications, commercial applications, deliveries, things, those type of things. There's a little bit difference between that and, say, level 3, which has to have pilot engagement, right? And so one of the things I do is I go out and I make speeches to a lot of state DOTs. And I've done it in Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, several others. And I always start the presentation by going, the most important thing that you guys can do, or I got a question, what can they do, is that you can stripe the roads really well. Now, they think I'm kidding, but this group, right, you're my people, and so you understand how important that is. Because there's a difference between using cameras, which may be one of the technologies being used at a lower level, versus using LiDAR, radar, and those type of things, right? And there's no ability yet to map a gravel road or a country road or a road that's covered over in snow, maybe, those type of things. So there has to be something for that radar, LiDAR to play off of, right? And so that's kind of critical. So it's really important to have that when you start this conversation. It's also important to understand what's going on around the technology and the fact that it's adaptation and implementation. We want the industry, I think, in general, we all agree, is we want the technology to be regulated at a federal level, and that the state level, what we need to do is make sure we're complying with state traffic laws, the rules of the road, liability, and those type of things. There's a lot of conversation that's taking place right now in Congress over some legislation that doesn't get passed. A lot of that's getting bogged down, in my opinion, on conversations that aren't really about the technology per se. They're about liability and certain groups, plaintiff attorneys, or whoever it might be. We see some of that in the states. Look, we have a system in place currently, in our opinion, that says as long as we can comply with the rules of the road, if there's a technology failure, we have something called product liability law, those are things. It's no different than what we do today if there's an accelerator that sticks or something like that. And so our hope is that, right, we can get to the point where we're guaranteeing that the technology is right on the federal level, that we can go into the states and make sure that we comply with all the rules of the road, and we can hopefully move together in partnership with the federal government, with the state governments, locals, whatever it might be, to ensure that the technology gets a proper adoption. And it's going to be critical, and I think Brad's going to be talking a little more about connectivity than I am here, but the connectivity is important, whether it's vehicle to vehicle or other connections. You're not going to be able to do that by ourselves. We're going to have connections with, a perfect example I always give all the time, is if you're coming up on a railroad intersection, they're not going to want to be able to give us access to a locomotive engine directly with a car, right? None of us want people on our platform. So what we're going to have to do is find a way to make a connection, where there's some connection in the public sector, right? That it reads this, that reads that, so we know there's a train coming, they know there's a car coming, those type of things. So there's a lot of work that's going to have to be done over the next several years as we kind of adapt these technologies. So we're involved with a lot of groups through the Auto Innovators. Brad and I are both part of that. I'm also work with the Self-Driving Coalition, which has Waymo and a number of other technology groups that involved with that with some of the OEMs. So there's a lot of conversation. There's going to be a lot that's going to take place the next several years. And groups like yours and groups like ours are going to need to be talking, because with those things, that interconnectivity that's taking place I talked about, the connectivity, is going to be dependent upon all of us being able to work together. So I'll close with that and turn it over to Brad and let him answer all the real questions. How's that? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony, that was enlightening, and of course, we really like to hear that how important our industry is now, and how important this industry is going to be in the future. Um, we've done some studies ourselves with regards to LiDAR and detectability of lane markings and so forth. So so we can see it as well. We can see that actually markings on the roads and possibly signs, and I hope to address that in the questions. Is, you know, what elements do we do that are going to be critical as we move forward beyond markings? The next speaker, of course, is Brad Stertz, and Brad is with Audi of America. He is the Director of Government Affairs. And he's also the co-founder and chairman of Partners for Automated Vehicle Education, PAVE. So, Brad, you want to step up here and share with us, please?
Thank you. Hi, thank you everyone. This is a great chance to address this crowd because, as Tony said and others, we really have a lot of common interests in mind. And I think, how long ago was it, Stacy? Maybe some months ago anyway, I addressed the board of directors about a project that we launched, connected vehicle project with Virginia DOT that has some exciting elements, and I'll get into that in more depth. But you know, I want to start here. I have more hair now than I did then, oddly. You know, to build a little bit on what Greg was saying, now is the time we need to collaborate because the technology, the opportunities are out there, and we all need to work together on a lot of these things. And individually or collectively, I think there's some good work that we can do together for the manual of uniform traffic control devices and the striping and things like that we talked about. But we also have a lot of opportunities that I'll get into even further in the connected vehicle area as well. So I have a couple of college kids in my home and learn a lot about internet memes. This is one of the more common ones, but I thought it applied to where we are today with connected mobility policy. And if you think about where the spectrum, the ITS spectrum, was being set aside in 1999, we've had 20 years of battle over where and how that spectrum would be used. And it's now finally beginning to clear up. So we've gone from the bad at the top to a little bit better at the bottom, right? And you know, the FCC has picked Cellular V2x as the technology of choice moving forward. And that's something that both Ford and Audi are globally at the forefront of really promoting Cellular V2x, because of the opportunities it has with the existing cellular network in addition to vehicle-to-infrastructure communications. But you know, in the U.S. it's been really uncertain. There's been all this churn, and now I think is finally the opportunity we have to really work together and to really begin to share with local and state road operators that this is a technology that's worth considering and investing in. And you know, to me, this is really the point of my presentation. I think we have to move right now this shift from this battle, this radio wars battle that we've had for 20 years, into thinking about how does this technology actually affect people. And when you think about it in those terms, the implications are truly dramatic. So even within our own industry, you know, so much of this has been thought of in terms of how do the cars communicate with each other. And the problem with that is you need thousands or millions of cars to be able to talk together to get the critical mass of that opportunity. What we've really tried to push here in the past year, as the FCC has clarified things a bit, is the opportunity to really think in terms of how connected vehicles, Cellular V2x, and other connected technologies can really help protect vulnerable road users. And that's really what we're here today to talk about, because vulnerable road users in a work zone, in the traffic environment, are right at the forefront of the opportunities that we see to have a major impact. And so, you know, for the past year since we addressed your board, I think we've spent a lot of time really aligning with the technology partners, the stakeholders, such as this organization. We really wanted to spark enthusiasm with states and cities, and what I found that's been really gratifying is you go to some of these cities and the traffic authorities there, they start spinning out, oh, we could do it with this, or you know, Tony mentioned rail crossings as one example. They've talked about flooding streets and how they can give drivers better signals to that. But the real point here is what we've really been trying to do is evangelizing that this opportunity is close at hand. And now's the time to begin to really consider how to set it up the right way as companies like Ford and our company begin to install it in production-ready vehicles. You can talk about later on, I think, Ford's commitment to CV2X and installing it in production cars. Ours is a little bit behind their timeline, but I think it's coming and we need to work towards that. But again, the bottom line, as you see on the bottom there, the whole point of this is the human benefit of connected mobility and the human safety angles that we have the opportunity to really think about in different ways. So that's why we started a couple of years ago this project with Virginia DOT and Virginia Tech to set up active work zone alerts in our cars. So this is what we talked about, and I'll have more information about that. But we started to think there's a lot of other opportunities that we wanted to tackle and understand and work with the different, the 360 degrees of stakeholders that are involved in that. So earlier this year, we set up a project in Alpharetta, Georgia, which is a community that's set up with CV2X already, and with Fulton County Schools, Bluebird school buses. Who else is in that project? I think I've got a list later, but there's a few others. Really the Qualcomm 360-degree environment working on alerts for our cars and our drivers when they approach a stopped school bus or when they are close to a school zone. And you think about in these two projects, the work zone deaths and injuries that can be avoided, or the most vulnerable of all road users, which are school children, just trying to get on and off a bus. It really was impactful to me that school kids are hurt and injured or killed even, not when on the bus, but when they're trying to get to the bus. And so if people aren't paying attention, playing with their phones, now we have the opportunity to give them other alerts. And I think in the future, for both work zones and the school bus type projects, the car can actually begin to slow down as it reaches an area where there's a reduced speed limit. Technologically, we're not quite there, but kind of related to what Tony was talking about, as we get more into more automated, more driver assistance advancements, that's going to come. I'm fully committed to that. So this is a quick look at how, and some of you have seen this before maybe, but this is how our work zone project is set up. This is an initial deployment. I think we're going to continue to iterate on this. But as you see the car approaching, you see the work zone signal on the far left, the merge icon, and as the signs change, the different information to the driver will pop up. We want to think too about audible alerts as well, so it's not just visual on the combi underneath your steering wheel, but also an audible alert that you hear to begin to get your attention. And unfortunately, we've wanted to get some of you folks into this project to see how it works, but with COVID and with working it out with Virginia DOT, that's been a little difficult to arrange. But I think increasingly we want to be able to have some of you see how this works on real roads in Northern Virginia. And this is one of the more interesting parts of this development. VTTI, Virginia Tech Transportation Institute, developed smart vests for road workers. Working with a vendor that actually makes the vest. So as a worker is getting close to traffic or an approaching car, the vest will light up. You see the radio in that center part of the jacket in the backpack. This is a little bit of a sneak peek to what we'll be able to show, I think, in maybe by the end of the year, early next year, with VTTI and Virginia DOT, because they really want to work to commercialize it. They've been working a lot to make this less expensive, to bring the form factor down of the radio and make it less heavy. I mean, no road worker is going to want to lug a big radio on their back all day long. And to really just improve the performance of it. So this is kind of their latest iteration of those vests, and they're working really well. They get a buzz and the lights happen. The communication of the car approaching the work zone goes from a base station to the workers. So that helps with the opportunity to get the individual workers alerted that they're getting maybe a little too close to onrushing traffic. And then this is a really quick look at how sort of those base stations operate and you know, some of the technology that's going into that. But we think this is really very exciting, something that we want to take beyond Virginia. But we're, you know, fortunately VDOT has been really progressive, and the Northern Virginia Connected Corridor has been a great place to be able to do this. And got a little video, which I got just a day ago. We took some footage of this in action in Northern Virginia. You're going to see Amanda Ham from VDOT and Mike Mollenhauer from VTTI explaining a little bit of the technology there. So if you can roll that in the back, I'm not sure I can click on it.
Construction zones or work zones are typically very noisy environments with all the cars going by. Oftentimes you have equipment that's loud, can be distracting with dust and smoke and things like that. It's very difficult for people who are operating in that environment to sense vehicles coming and passing just like you normally would if you were walking by the roadside.
So this kind of technology that provides accurate real-time messages to let people know that the work zone is there, and more importantly, that there are people in that work zone, is incredibly key to allowing everyone to navigate those new, unexpected places.
With looking at connected vehicle applications, it was very obvious that we wanted to give drivers information about where the work zones were, what the speeds were reduced to, what some of the hazards might be in these areas. But at the same time, we also knew the workers were there, and what information could we provide to them? And so we thought of this notion of a smart vest. And the smart vest would help us both localize where the worker is in the work zone, but also give us the chance to give messages back to the worker when a threat is imminent.
And the end result of all of this is that there are clear messages sent into a vehicle, such that the driver gets alerted to, there's a work zone ahead, there's a worker present. The work zone's ending, you can go back to your regular driving. It cues the driver so that they're more aware of what's going on. And the way we look at it is the more informed a driver is, the better decisions they can make.
So that's a quick rough cut, but you can kind of hear the enthusiasm for Virginia DOT and this, and I think that's something that other DOTs will share in, and I think we would love to be able to show you more of this and have some discussions with Mike Mollenhauer at VTTI on how they're thinking about the vest and things like that. So really exciting times. Look forward to questions. So thank you for having us.